Now the talk I want to give to you, the first one I want to give to you, it's relatively short, is on how Francis achieves all those things. He has enormous appeal. He's Time Person of the Year. He was on the front page of Rolling Stone. He got one of the greatest honours that I can never understand. He got Esquire magazine's Best Dressed Man of the Year. And he wears the same outfit every day. And it's not very well cut, and he doesn't wear it very well. It's obviously there's something more than the clothes that are shining through. Fortune magazine recently chose him the leader of the year. And the one I also liked a lot is The Economist on the 19th of April judged him to be, they reckoned that he should be one of the great turnaround CEOs of the year, and that every university should be studying because he had turned around he rebranded RC Global, they call it. I think that's RC Global must have been the church, in less than a year. Why has he got this appeal? I think part of his appeal was best explained to me by William Grimm, who's a Maryknoll father, works in Tokyo and is a journalist, and he said, he just looks like a very good old pastoral parish priest. He said, and we're not used to that, he said. We're not used to popes looking like parish priests. We are used to parish priests acting like popes, but... But he looks like someone who actually genuinely cares for us, is interested in us, in our good. And this is the great point he makes, that the world still hungers for goodness, kindness and common sense, especially in their leaders and in their celebrities. He's merciful and not at all self-referential or self-serving. And his pastoral care for him takes priority over all else. He is, as I said before, a pope who wants to talk to us. He's not afraid of actual conversation. The best case was that when he meant to meet the superiors general of all the religious organisations, and he just stayed for hours and he just talked with them. Now, in all my time in leadership, I like to talk to people, but I was always a bit careful about where the conversation might be going, because I didn't want to get to the stage where I wasn't in control. But he doesn't seem to worry about that. And he's not worried about human frailty. His style is deeply pastoral and encouraging, and he's comfortable with being fallible and is not at all defensive. He must have, in early stages at least, driven the Vatican mad by his homilies. He gives a homily every morning for which he doesn't use notes. He probably thought a lot about it, but he doesn't use notes and he just speaks. Now, that may not seem extraordinary to you, but in the Vatican you can make arguments from what the Pope said in the homily. And they're frightened of all the arguments that can be fostered by this man just speaking. And he models the virtues he attributes to Mary. He says, in her we see that humility and tenderness are not the virtues of the weak, but of the strong, who need not treat others poorly in order to feel important themselves. He's a leader who can live with responsibility and ambiguity. This is a statement I want you to pause and think about for a moment. But this is a statement he made to the priests of Rome in John Lateran Cathedral in September last year. The defining aspect of this change of epoch is that things are no longer in their place. Our previous ways of explaining the world and relationships, good and bad, no longer appears to work. The way in which we locate ourselves in history has changed. Things we thought would never happen, or that we never thought we would see, we are experiencing now, and we dare not even imagine the future. He's a leader who doesn't have to control everything, this is the thing. But he also wants the church to listen to everyone. And he made very strong statements in South America about how the bishops should listen to their people and the priests. This is going to be a revolution. That's going to require a deep level of spirituality. It's going to require a new level of faith. And it's going to require skills and structures that we don't have. The skill of discernment, but also the structures for consultation. He gives this is an inspiring vision rather than a critique. He wants to present an attractive and joyful face. When the Pope was elected, he was elected around 5:30, I think, in the morning for us. Because I remember I was waking up with news radio, and I was talking about the Pope has been elected and he'll soon be appearing. And I'm saying to myself, oh heck, I don't think I'll get out of bed, there's just another Pope. and then I got out of bed, and you see that, buonasera. He's actually introduced a whole pile of new terms which we'd lost. Warm, merciful, beautiful, positive. John Thornhill, the Marist theologian, a good number of years ago now, said that was one of the biggest things we had to do, is to present a beautiful face. Gaudium at Spes, it's along the lines of Gaudium at Spes. We developed this a little bit, because Gaudium at Spes said, the church, that's the church in the modern world, from the Second Vatican Council, the church is not above the world, but it's part of the world, and we share all the joys and the sufferings and the anxieties and all that of everyone. And we have our share of answers, but we don't have all the answers. We're pilgrims and seekers as well. The church is normally critical of the modern world. In the 19th century, there were all kinds of historical reasons for this. And we just, the church, it wasn't until Gaudium et Spes at the Second Vatican Council that we said anything positive about the world. But all cultures, even postmodern Western culture, are places to encounter God. The Spirit is there. We just have to find the Spirit. But they're also ambiguous. We're not naive. We shouldn't be. We have to be in the middle of being hostile and naive. Because being a human construct is ambiguous as well. So I think one of the big challenges he's putting to us in leadership is to befriend. Befriend the world, but not in a naive way. And positive and critical and discerning. A spiritual redeemed leader who still needs to be evangelized. It reads as the compassionate and merciful reflections of a sinner who is confident he has been forgiven. He argues that we need to experience Jesus' compassion in a wonderful personal way to go out to the world, and especially the poor, with mercy and compassion. When he was interviewed by Antonio Spadara, the Jesuit, for that interview, he was asked, the very first question Spadara asked him, who is Jorge Bergoglio? And his answer is, I am a sinner who has been touched by the healing love of God. That's classic Jesuit spiritual exercises. But, I mean, the thing is that when we think of sinner, we think it's a totally negative word. And we wallow in our sin, in our guilt. But he finds that I am someone in need who has been loved. And that's why he wants to share it. We have to learn that we do not possess God or all God's activities. And Pope Francis encourages us to dialogue with the world, with the state, with sciences, with people of other faiths. We have much to learn as well as to give. So I think you can say that he makes meaning in a transitional time by being realistic, by being hopeful, by being able to describe the situation, and he prepares us for the future. He's getting us to think about the future. He builds a learning and discerning community. We certainly are talking a lot more, and we're trying to think more. And he has a vision that inspires and gives a sense of mission.